Okay, good morning. I'm Sunnyvale Mayor Larry Klein. Thanks for joining me again this week at our early start time. I hope everyone's staying well. This is the 70th installment of my weekly virtual office hour address. We've now reached 487 days, rapidly approaching that 500 mark since the March 16th, 2020 County Health Order started the shelter in place in an attempt to slow the spread of COVID-19. 16 months ago, I converted my weekly coffee shop hours into a live stream address, and I haven't missed a week since. Uh, People continue to say that they enjoy hearing from their mayor every week, even when they can't watch this live. But these weekly sessions are really fantastic for me because they allow me to reflect on what's happened over the last week, and then they allow me to provide you some updates and news, answer some of your questions, and pass on some general words of encouragement. So. And as I've said before, I'm now following up these televised sessions with in-person meetings at Being Seen on Murphy Avenue afterwards. So thank you for allowing me to continue to represent you and work for Sunnyvale during ever-changing times. I hope everyone's doing well and staying healthy and enjoying the good weather, the good summer so far. And as I've said before, I'll be changing my background art every week with art provided by Sunnyvale artists. So this cherry season just finished, and apricot season is almost complete too. So I thought today's piece is called Cherry Picking. It is by Chris MacDonough. And so if you want to purchase this art, you can just contact me and I'll put you in direct contact with the artist. But I just want to thank all the artists that continue to provide me art on a weekly basis to change my background and highlight the great variety of art that Sunnyvale artists are creating. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started and talk about what's happened at the federal, state, county, and city level over the last 2 weeks. Last week was Independence Week, Independence Day week, so that things were fairly light. A lot of governments, a lot of jurisdictions were, on vacation on their summer break. The county I think has the whole month of July off. The state went into recess until August. Our Sunnyvale City Council actually doesn't get a summer break. We actually have, by charter, we have to have 2 council meetings every month. And so, ultimately that's one of the hardest things about being on council is you can't actually plan vacations very well around council meetings, although conceivably you could miss council meetings at a given time. Last Wednesday, I joined Assemblymember Mark Berman for virtual coffee and conversation. So that was actually a very good event. It was the first of multiple coffee and conversations that he's going to be having. Assemblymember Berman is going to be having with different mayors in the different cities he represents. People asked whether or not that was recorded. I'm afraid it wasn't recorded. So definitely you can always sign up and join one of his other sessions to hear from him. And you can always hear from me weekly at this session, but definitely if you get a chance, attend one of those upcoming sessions. And then last Thursday, Governor Newsom signed an executive order encouraging all Californians to reduce water use by 15%. And 50 of the 58 counties are already in drought-related state of emergency. But the governor's order was purely voluntary. I think partially because the recall, but it encouraged, the governor encouraged people to take small measures like shorter showers, watering your lawns less frequently, and visit if you want ideas on how you can save water. You can go to saveourwater.com, and that's basically will give you all kinds of tips on how you can do water conservation. The governor didn't, talk about whether or not mandatory restrictions would be required in the future, but ultimately Californians are using less water now than they did prior to the last drought from 2013 to 2016. So, you know, and that's when we last imposed those mandatory restrictions. This has been one of the driest rainy seasons on record, and Santa Clara County, Santa Clara Valley Water District imposed mandatory water usage reductions of 15% compared to 2019 levels. But from a Sunnyvale standpoint, we'll actually be taking what additional measures we'll be doing from a city standpoint in one of our upcoming meetings. And then on Sunday, I attended the grand opening of SIVA Bay Area, their grand opening of a new building in Milpitas. And SIVA is an Indian service organization that's actually been helping a lot of people during COVID. They provided tons of masks to, the schools. They gave masks to public safety. They provide a lot of food to residents, and even last year was difficult because we also had fires in the middle of all that, and so they were actually finding homes for a lot of residents throughout the Bay Area for people that have been displaced because of fire. So it was good to have some in-person events and support one of the organizations that is actually doing good in our community. And so I was happy to attend that, although it was in Milpitas, but it was actually good to see some other mayors, as well as see a lot of the volunteers, and see what their new building is going to look like. So it was pretty impressive. Glad to see them actually finding a permanent home to help support their services they're providing to all the residents. And then on Monday of this week, the Sacramento County Superior Court judge denied Governor Newsom's request to be listed as a Democrat on the state's upcoming recall election ballot. So last year, we talked about this previously, the governor didn't file the paperwork correctly. So he failed to list his party preference when he filed his official response to the recall. And so Newsom had asked the Secretary of State to correct the error. And when she declined, saying that, it was her responsibility to make sure, things are filed on time and not have special recompense, his office ultimately sued the Secretary of State as an inadvertent good faith mistake, but ultimately the judge said that being listed as a Democrat won't be on the ballot, and so Governor Newsom, I think everyone knows he's the Democratic governor. That being said, wanted that designation and isn't going to have it ultimately. And then as far as the recall, today is the last day for people to jump into this race, and the requirements to jump into the race are pretty limited. You must be a U.S. citizen, you must be registered to vote in California. The person can't be convicted of a felony involving bribery. They can't serve 2 terms as governor, and then since 1990, and they must submit 5 years of tax returns. So that's kind of the qualifications. And then as far as just to be listed, all you need to do is either pay $4,000 filing fee or submit 7,000 signatures from supporters. So the barrier to be on the recall ballot is pretty limited, and so far we have more than 65 people running for the recall, and that's kind of on par when Gray Davis was recalled many years ago, but it's more than 30 Republicans, more than 15 Democrats, more than 15 no party preferences, and 4 from the Green Party and 1 American Independent. So it's going to be an interesting 2 months leading up to the September 14th recall election. But definitely it'll be interesting to see what debates will happen, what press the people who are running are ultimately going to get. I think it'll be, it was a circus a little bit when the last recall election happened, and I think this one will be something similar. But we'll see, in the middle of fire season and kids going back to school and the Delta variant, having a recall of our governor will be, let's say, an interesting event for the next 2 months. So anyway, we're about 2 months away from that election day. And then on Tuesday night, City Council met. We had a meeting that went past midnight. And our big item, of course, was the housing strategy implementation. It was considering a draft for the mobile home park memorandum of understanding. So this has been ongoing. We did a housing strategy several years ago, and there were lots of questions from council to talk about, what the final terms of the MOU were. And, last fall, we said, okay, we wanted to go with the MOU. The final resolution from council was to do an MOU and ultimately do staff recommendation for a 20-year MOU with a maximum rent increase every year of 75% of CPIU, of the CPI, the Consumer Price Index for the San Francisco Bay Area, or 3%. And then, have certain pass-through costs. Of course, that's defined by state law. But the big thing ultimately was, and then also to do an RSO in case there were any of the mobile home park landlords that were, let's say, reticent in signing that. So basically, it was a two-pronged approach. Go ahead and finalize the MOU that the mobile home park owners will be signing. They'll then provide leases, so everyone who signs on will provide leases to the residents, and then creating a, let's say, more restrictive RSO. So basically an ordinance from a city standpoint that would be more restrictive than what was in the MOU. But the big thing from an MOU process standpoint was that this got the residents and the mobile home park owners to sit down and negotiate terms and kind of come to an agreement on what makes sense. And so I think that was one of the positive things, as opposed to the city just going off and creating an ordinance. This allowed some of the mobile home park or owners to put in some measures that will be part of the lease, that if we just said, here's an ordinance, it would have only affected, mobile homes going forward. And so I think, having that two-pronged approach really makes a lot of sense in the long term. But yeah, we had, quite a few residents, quite a few questions from council, quite a few residents to speak, as well as the two stakeholders also had a chance to speak. So it was a good discussion, and I think what we finally ended up on was a positive resolution to what we'll be doing. The MOU, as well as having an RSO. And then on Wednesday, at a press conference in Los Angeles, Governor Newsom laid out the enhanced efforts to speed up rental assistance to landlords and tenants, ultimately urging a quicker turnaround for aid requests, encouraging more participation in $7.2 billion that's been set aside for COVID relief for renters and for landlords. We've talked about previously what, ultimately now it's last month's order extended that eviction moratorium through September 30th and increased payments to 100%, hoping to, let's say, stem the widespread, eviction tsunami that was considered to happen sometime in the fall. But you know, the state's efforts, launched in March, but they've been hampered by, complex applications, slow processing, complicated rules, regulations. And so hopefully things have been streamlined a little bit. As of now, I think just over more than $1 billion has been requested from nearly uh, just about 110,000 tenant and landlords. That being said, I've heard that there's on the order of 650,000 people that are conceivably back are owing money because of COVID. So that's amazing to a certain degree. Only about 158 million has been paid out of of conceivably more than $1 billion requested. So only about 15% has been paid out of what's been requested, and then there's just a continual backlog of things. So you know the Governor Newsom basically said that they've improved the website. Housing is key. They've added more community partners to reach out to poor and immigrant communities. But the governor is hoping that things clear up a little bit. The money is there, and hopefully residents and landlords, whether or not they're the current tenants or whether or not those tenants have moved, and the landlords can apply for that money. But hopefully that money can get to the people who actually need it. And the governor also talked about a virus update, and warning about the Delta variant, of course, and trying to get people vaccinated. There's still a lot of risk from the virus, and especially kind of the economic upheaval because of that virus remains throughout the state. So definitely we are not out of the woods as far as that's concerned. And you start looking at the numbers, and that's also showing that we're not out of the woods yet, because of that Delta variant, which is becoming the most common version of people that are showing new or testing positive from COVID right now. From a new cases standpoint nationally, we now have 33.8 million cases, more than 200,000 in the last week, new cases, and most of those were the Delta variant. And nationally, we've surpassed 185 million vaccinated with at least one dose, which is about 68% of adults, and 59% of adults are fully vaccinated. So we're getting better. People are getting vaccinated. Of course, there are some breakthroughs, even people getting COVID, even if they've been vaccinated. And as far as deaths are concerned, we passed 606,000 deaths, almost additional 2,000 deaths in the last week. And from California's standpoint, we've had over 3.7 million positive cases. We're now getting about 3,500 cases a day. That's up from 1,500 from just last week and the week before. So we are seeing a lot more new cases of COVID within the state. We're still pretty much one of the lowest states in the nation for on a population standpoint, how many new cases we're getting. California's had over 63,000 fatalities, but we've almost had 43 million vaccines administered. Another 500,000 vaccines distributed in the last week. So that's actually positive. From a ranking, we're still at number 10 on states with residents with at least one dose, and then we're still at 17th on residents that are fully vaccinated, with about 62% of our residents that are vaccinated. So looking better, definitely, but it's taking, it's difficult to say the least. And from a county standpoint, our cumulative cases have now are over 120,000, but we're only up about 500 in the last week. We've had 1,702 deaths. That's about 3 in the last week. And then 82% of the county age 12 and over has at least one dose, and 75% of those 12 and over are fully vaccinated. So 3/4 of our county are fully vaccinated. I'm continuing to do a lot of advocacy on our city's behalf. At the county level, I keep having discussions with county health and county supervisors, as far as testing. If you need to get tested, you can go to sccfreetest.org, and you can find out all the sites where you can get tested if you think you've been exposed. As for getting vaccinated, our city has been working to get people vaccinated, especially if you're senior, or if you know of a senior that has not been able to get vaccinated. We have care managers at our senior center that are assisting seniors to make vaccine appointments, and they're also working, with homebound people, directing them to the county's in-home vaccination service. So setting up appointments so that the county can actually go directly to them. So if you need assistance from the city, you can contact our senior center at 408-730-7360. The county has a lot of drop-in vaccination clinics. So if you go to sccfreevax.org, you can go there. I've also been talking to the county about, other ways we can just have pop-up sites throughout the city, so that people can have access a lot more easily. So we'll be doing evening vaccinations. So there will be a pop-up vaccination van in August. So it'll be done in conjunction with the Wednesday night music series in downtown Sunnyvale. So on Wednesday, August 4th, and Wednesday, August 25th, from 5 to 10 p.m., the county van will be set up on the kind of, we'll call the Macy's parking lot near Washington and Murphy Avenue. And so, that'll be kind of done in conjunction with the Wednesday night music series. I think that'll be good. Conceivably, we get a lot of more people that are generally downtown and able to go to get their vaccination if they haven't already done it. And El Camino Health, El Camino Health had a pop-up or a vaccination site on Maud Avenue, but they'll also be now holding no-cost COVID-19 vaccinations available for everyone 12 and older at the Columbia Neighborhood Center, or Columbia Middle School. And so this is kind of a back-to-school effort, but it's open to everybody from 3 to 6 p.m. on August 7th. And so it'll be all walk-ins, no appointments required. So that's for everyone, anyone 12 years and up. So whatever, trying to make those vaccines as available as possible for those that haven't been able to get their shot yet. Let me go ahead and announce some other upcoming events. So our next council meeting is Tuesday, July 27th, and we'll have multiple things. It'll be another busy meeting, where we'll adopt a resolution declaring a stage 1 water supply shortage, and so that will define some of the fines and other efforts that the city will be putting in place to make sure people are using as little water as possible, and encourage them to follow all those recommendations coming from the state and the county right now. And then we'll adopt a resolution to allow outdoor dining on private parking lots, and close the 100 block of South Murphy Avenue until the end of December. And there'll be other issues that will be discussed about at that point on what it takes to fully close Murphy Avenue. And I've heard from lots of residents who are looking forward to that. Definitely, we're getting closer. It's making sure the businesses are on board, making sure that we do it legally. I've talked to the city attorney about it, and there's been some cities that have done it, and if you don't do it correctly, there's lawsuits that can be filed and other things. So it's making sure that, everything is in order and starting that, study issue as quickly as possible. Let's see what happens. I look forward to hearing from our residents, seeing what the staff recommendations are going to be. But there's, it's not as simple as people always say, let's just close the street. Well, that was fine in the state of emergency, and we can continue to do it while we're in the COVID state of emergency. But when that emergency ends, then, in order to do it, we actually have to have things done more at a legal standpoint. And so, and I've heard from lots of residents that are happy with the kind of the European walkability pedestrian zone that we have on Murphy Avenue. But ultimately, we need to make sure that we follow the right process if we're actually going to close that. And so council will be discussing that. We'll see, how council ends up voting on what that ultimately looks like. But ultimately, what will come right from in council is to at least extend it to the end of the year while we figure out what next steps need to get done. And then on Monday, August 2nd, City Hall will reopen. So, we've been doing by, like planning, his staff has been by appointment only. The library has been partial hours. So partial library will move to its old hours at the beginning of August. And similarly, the City Hall will start being open 9 to 5 every day. And then Tuesday, August 3rd is National Night Out. That's always a good event where, neighbors meet and they have block parties. This year, we will be supporting that same sort of thing. So council members will be going throughout the community to go to those block parties. Public safety will go out and do, with the canine officers, with the fire trucks, with the, the motorcycle officers. So it'll be good to see people, in person, outdoors, and kind of get around some of the neighborhoods. Monday, August 9th is the deadline for our next board and commission applications period. So our recruitment's currently underway for 3 positions, one on the Bicycle Pedestrian Advocacy Commission, one on the Heritage Preservation Commission, and one on the Personnel Board. So we go through that on a quarterly basis. So we have, interviews scheduled for August 17th, but applications are due by 4 p.m. on August 9th. So hopefully on Monday, August 9th. So you can, if you're interested in getting more involved, you can go to our website and search for boards and commissions, or contact the city clerk at 408-730-7483. And let's go ahead and get to our weekly questions. Rachel asked, previously, is Sunnyvale ever going to have good shopping center again or a mall again with popular stores, not just hair and nail salons? So, so much shopping, has moved to online shopping. A lot of big box stores are closing and shrinking around the country, but we are having some stores open up, not just restaurants, but Ulta Beauty. I was saying that they will be opening. Actually, they opened last Friday as a soft opening. I saw that when I went downtown for my in-person office hours at Bean Scene after this morning virtual office session. And so, they had their soft opening that started last Friday. They'll be having their grand opening today at 10 a.m. So if you want to be there for that ribbon cutting, you can join us at 10 a.m. And then they'll have a 20% discount, today and all weekend long for those who can't make it today. But it's good to see, it's cosmetics, it's hair care, it's shampoo, it's other things, but it's another shopping location here in Sunnyvale. Of course, REI will be, opening up at the old Toys R Us store in the fall, and the construction on that building is moving ahead rapidly. And then, of course, the city's also, constantly courting, other chain stores, other small stores to join us here. City Line's looking at um, clothing stores and shoe stores and cookware stores to add to what's happening in the rest of that location downtown. And there's other restaurants that will also be opening. Lori asked, what would it take to get some watch for ducks or watch for geese signs for the Manet and Remington area at the community center? So it's such a charming sight to see them milling around that neighborhood. A couple of signs would not only be cute, but also provide general reminder for people driving over there. So yeah, I'll bring that up with staff. Yeah, it would be, it would kind of make sense. On a secondary note, of course, there are a lot of people who don't like those geese and the mess that they make near the community center pond. There's actually going to be outreach meetings starting in the fall to look at the long-term use of that whole site, including, possibly removing that pond, that goes along Remington there, and making it into more of a park, a more active space, open area that residents would be able to use as opposed to just a pond for ducks and geese. And hopefully people aren't feeding the ducks and geese, although I'm always, I sometimes see people, still doing what they shouldn't be doing is feeding the ducks and geese. Let's see. Dawn asked, I saw earthquakes that happened in the Sierras last week. What is Sunnyvale doing to be prepared for the big earthquake? And so from a Sunnyvale standpoint, we have, emergency protocol for how we handle those. So it's activating our emergency operations control center, command center. But the biggest thing is, helping residents be prepared. And we have lots of classes that we provide. So there's a personal emergency preparedness. It's a PEP 2-hour class that happens, every few months. We have one at the end of July, and then we actually have another one that's in Spanish at the beginning of August. And then, of course, there's our CERT class. This is the Community Emergency Response Team class. It's a 7-week class, 1 night a week, and then a final exercise on one of the Saturdays. But that starts at the end of August, so if you want to attend that, you can. But I think that's a really good way to get a wider view of how to be better prepared when the next emergency happens. And the next emergency will happen at some point. So it's making sure that when that emergency happens, people spread throughout the city know what to do, because there will be, there won't be ever enough public safety officers to deal with that immediately. And so making sure that neighborhoods can deal with how to manage that, how to prepare, how to, deal with the immediate effects of that disaster, whatever it might be. Evelyn asked, when is the Washington Park Swim Center opening? So that is getting a lot closer. It should be by the end of July, so within the next few weeks. I went by earlier today, and part of this was, the delay has been because of equipment. There's because of delivery delays and things of that nature. Getting certain equipment in wasn't available, and so our splash pad hasn't been completed. That being said, there is water in the pool now, so we're getting a little bit closer. The new metal fence is complete around the swim center, so things are looking a lot better from that standpoint. And we're within a few weeks as far as when that will finally open. So I think that's actually very positive. John asked, what can we do to get potholes fixed around our city? So, there are a lot of ongoing road work, and, our SB1 funds are always be putting in place to work on our PCI, our pavement conditions index, to try to fix roads around the city. If you see a pothole, if you see, a street light that's out, a crack in the sidewalk, the best thing you can do is go to sunnyvale.ca.gov and go to the Sunnyvale access link and report something there. You can always call Public Works during normal working hours at 408-730-7506 and report it there if you really want. That's probably that's the other way. There are still people picking up the phone, but the on-site website is good because you can give cross streets. You can actually take photos if you want and upload those at the same time. So I seen with me running around the city on a weekly basis or a daily basis, I often come back and immediately get back home and report what's going to what I've seen, whether or not that's a cracked sidewalk or some other issue that I've seen throughout the city. Angela asks, what can we do to keep Murphy Avenue closed to car traffic indefinitely? And so this is what is coming back to council at our meeting on July 27th, and that will be where council has the opportunity to close Murphy Avenue and other kind of parking, outdoor seating and parking lots until January, and then we'll be providing other directions. So that will be a meeting that you can write letters to or join as a Zoom meeting to talk about what you like. And then Francis asks, is live music coming back to Murphy Avenue this summer? And yes, it is. We're just a few weeks away. So Wednesday night rock and Saturday night jazz will start in August. So it will happen every Wednesday and Saturday in August. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to being in person again. Let's see if we have any other questions. Raghu asks, speeding in neighborhoods continues to be a life-threatening safety issue. What's the city's plan to prevent, discourage speeding in neighborhoods, especially in school zone streets? So especially in school zones, one of the things that we did was lower the speed limit to 15 miles per hour throughout all of our school zones. And one of the things that we have kind of ongoing evaluations of looking at safe routes to schools, making sure that we're doing that. That's part of our active transportation plan to make sure that that the kids can go to school safely, whether or not that's improved sidewalks, improved buffered bike lanes, things of that nature. Especially as the school year starts, making sure that our public safety is out there reminding people that here's what the speed limit is, having the flashing signs, the beacons, all those sorts of things are things that can be done. As far as traffic calming in general neighborhoods, there's a whole traffic calming process that the city has put in place. And so if you go to the city website, you can basically search for traffic calming, and at that point you can get I'll say the longer list of what you need to do as far as to have the city evaluate speed limits. It's like I hear from a lot of residents like, well, we just want a speed bump here and a speed bump there. It's not as simple as that. And then of course, we'd like our speeds lowered and all that. That requires traffic studies, and this is one of the things of lowering the speed limit along El Camino Real. It'd been talked about for years. It had been for whatever reason, the speed limit was 35 miles per hour in Mountain View and 35 miles per hour in Santa Clara. For whatever reason, it was 40 miles per hour in Sunnyvale. And advocating with the Caltrans, who officially runs the El Camino Real, because it's considered a state highway. They actually had to do a traffic study, and it finished was done just before COVID hit, on what the speeds are along El Camino Real to actually lower the speeds. And so that's one of the things that we need to look at as far as lowering speeds. There are things that we can do, reminders as far as speed is concerned, flashing lights, flashing crosswalk signals, other things that will help people, in actually making streets narrower, have people, ultimately do slow down. So there are things that we can do, but there's a whole process that people can do as far as as far as having the city evaluate whether or not to do traffic calming measures within their street. Will there be a grand opening of the Washington Pool? Also, do you have an idea of the cost for entrance? So I don't have an idea of the cost for entrance. That part that will be up on the website later this month. There will be a grand opening. So there will be first, let's say, a soft opening in July, and then the grand opening, I think, is planned for the first week of August. So much like the Alta Beauty, the grand opening isn't required for people to start using the pool. So definitely we will. I think the grand opening is August 4th, although I might be wrong about that date. But the real opening for people to start using it should happen the last week of July. So looking forward to that. But right now, we don't have fixed dates for either of those. I think the grand opening is tentatively for August 4th, depending upon what my calendar currently looks like. Maybe I don't see it. Anyway, so hopefully we'll have that. I think sometime in the first week of August. Let's see, anything else? Let's see. Oh, and definitely if you, and of course Nancy asked, do you know when the local Blinum apricots will be on sale for the community center? This is probably the last week to pick up those apricots. It's usually available for about 2 weeks, and so we're rapidly coming to the end of that season. So if you go to the community center, you can pick them up. If you haven't already, I've heard from a lot of people that have went multiple times and making jams and pies and everything of that nature. Definitely, they've been very tasty when I went by. So if you haven't tried them, definitely it's worth a try. So you can go by the community center parking lot and have some of those apricots that have come from our heritage orchard. Let's go ahead and wrap up. Thanks for joining me again this week. I'm always proud of Sunnyvale and our response to the pandemic over the last year and a half almost. The future is still uncertain. New issues continue to come up, but your actions really do make a difference. Get your vaccination if you haven't already. Continue to work to rebuild community wherever you can. Get out, meet your neighbors who might, re-meet your neighbors if you haven't seen them for a while. Sunnyvale will emerge from this as a stronger community. We're in this together. We'll get through this together. Thanks for listening. Have a great week. Have a great weekend. Take care. Goodbye.